What was it that you initially saw where you realized like, hey, this applies directly to law enforcement?
I took the laws of combat and I started to look at them and go, well, how can that speak in our language? Like cover move, it's all about teamwork. So I think about the most basic principle of patrol work is we call it contact and cover. The contact officer, their job is to 80% of their attention is dealing with what's going on in front of them, dealing with the person they're contacting. 20% is on everything else. So I've got to do that, and I got to worry about contact. If I'm contacting Leif, and let's say JP's my cover officer, well, JP's going to position himself in a position of advantage to put you at a position of disadvantage, but 80% of his attention is on everything else, and 20% is on you. So he's going to be worried about, the car driving by or the dude smoking a cigarette, hanging out on the sidewalk watching us, or people that have their phone out recording us and making sure that they're not going to get in the business of the stop, right? So I'm like, cover move is contact and cover, because if JP fails at his job, then I fail at my job, then the mission fails. So it's all about teamwork, making a room entry, doing building search. If I go right and my partner goes right, and then the number 3 officer goes right, well, no one went left or looked deep in the room. Everyone's sucked into the corner. And so it's all about teamwork when we're clearing a building or, regardless of what we do, working with dispatch. That's a key component right there, our non-sworn personnel. Like if dispatch fails, then we fail. We can't, if I don't get the information from dispatch or they miscommunicate an address for me, I can't successfully complete the mission. So that's why it's so like it just ties right in. Simple. I do readbacks every day. We go on a call, we whip out our handy dandy notebook, right? And we take notes in there, and then I do a readback. So, ma'am, what you're telling me is this is what happened. And then they add information. Okay, I misunderstood you. So then I write down the notes in my notebook. I mean, it's simple. That's the principle of simple. Prioritize and execute. We use prioritize and execute on everything we do. Secure the scene, render aid, identify victims, witnesses, and suspects, conduct interviews. We collect evidence. We process that evidence, and then we write reports, and then we file charges. Everything is prioritize and execute in what we do. And then I always have this saying that objectives dictate tactics and your circumstances dictate your countermeasures. Well, what's my objective, and then how can I prioritize those things to successfully complete that objective? And then if other things happen, those circumstances pop up, well then those are the countermeasures that I implement, and I have to prioritize and execute all of those things. What's the driving force? And that's what, prioritize and execute is all about. We do that every day. Decentralized command. For as much as it freaks out a lot of leaders to say, I don't want to implement decentralized command, they really are doing it every day, because they're not going to be there telling their officers to make this traffic stop or make that traffic stop or write this ticket, write that ticket, or you got to make entry or not make entry. They're making snap decisions out there that are under tense, uncertain, and rapidly evolving circumstances every day. So when I looked at the laws of combat, it's like we're already doing this, and I just got to put them into phrases and terminology. And it's not like we're in combat with anybody, right? We're not at war with anybody out there. Our job as police officers, our mission is different. So if everybody understands the mission, and then this is how you apply the laws of combat and the mindsets of victory, I mean, it just made it really easy to plug and play and to look at it from that perspective.
I think that's outstanding. As I mentioned before, I mean, that's one thing that really sets you guys apart is the trust that you have in your people to go out there and do their jobs. And that's, we see this, it's not just in the law enforcement world, but in the business world too, where so oftentimes people will say things like, well, you're telling me to use decentralized command, but I don't trust my people. And then when I say, all right, well, let's look at your training program. How often are you sitting down? Are you sitting down weekly with your people and training them and actually putting them in situations that induce some stress, that are realistic, that are going to enable them to perform their job better? and be able to make better decisions. And that's in those places where the people are telling me they don't trust their people. That's not happening. They're not training people at all. So it never gets better. And I think that's, one thing that I was very impressed with, as Jocko and JP and I came up, and Cody came up to train with you and work with your officers. You guys have some great training programs going on all the time, and you're clearly investing in training, in realistic training that enables your people to step up and lead, which is the results speak for themselves. When your officers have been in the most difficult situations possible, they have stepped up and performed well, which is a testament to your leadership.
Yeah, back in May of last year, two of our guys were shot in the line of duty. The suspect had a rifle, and every other round turned out to be armor-piercing green tip ammunition. And when they were both shot, we had people that were there. They both had trainees with them that were in their third day of training. And to watch those videos is truly humbling, because to watch what happened, we had an officer. He was shot in the face right underneath his eye, and the bullet actually ricocheted down. He attested this today to drinking a strawberry True Moo, so to make his bones strong. But it ricocheted down and out his neck into his chest, and the bullet came out of his chest and it collapsed his lung. It's hit 3 times in the armor plate that we carry. Got hit in his fingers. Took off the tips of his fingers, bounced off his forearm, and then he got hit in the stomach, and it skirted his stomach, nicked his liver. And then the other officer, same thing, hit his stomach, nicked his liver, went around. And to watch how the trainees responded, to watch how the officers respond to that, everybody kept their cool. Everybody was making decisions all the way down to the newest people. And then the other team of officers comes up and handles the bad guy. And the way they handle him was just with the utmost, even though this guy just shot 2 of our guys, man, they handled them the utmost professional. And the dispatchers that handled it on the back end of things, how calm and collective they were. And then 6 months, or one day later, Mac walks out of the hospital. And then 6 days later, Demetrius walks out of the hospital. And we communicated quite a bit about that. It's like, what does winning look like, right? When 2 of your guys get shot with AR-15 and walk out of the hospital on their own 2 feet. And I attest that to training, equipment, and leadership. Those 3 things were key in that situation. And for the officers that were there to make the decisions that they made, to load the officers in the cars, and no one was there barking orders. It was like, hey, what do we need to do? Let's do this. And some of those decisions, all the way down to someone that was just out of field training, to people that were 3 days into training, to patrol officers that were on the scene, the sergeants that were on the scene, making those decisions and getting them to the hospital, within a matter of minutes. When that happened, that's decentralized command at its greatest right there. And so at the most trying of times, that was probably the most trying thing I've been through as a leader, is getting a phone call at 2:00 in the morning and telling me two of our officers are shot and one of them is not looking good. And I know you've been in those situations before, and that's, as a leader, that's some of the most grueling things you can endure. But when you look back at it and you go, as a leader, I gave them the best training I could, the best equipment that I could, and empowered them to make decisions. That makes me want to go even better and harder, and want them to get more training and better equipment, and empower them even more. So it's a driving force for sure.
That's the worst case scenario, to get a call like that. But I think that call could have gone a lot differently. And
sure.
I'm so impressed with those guys, that they continued to maneuver on the suspect and help neutralize the suspect, which prevented things from getting to enable them to actually walk away from that situation and continue to and recover, which it could have gone very differently for them and other officers that were responding had they not done that. And I think it's a tremendous testament to their training, to the type of officers that that and the culture of your team that look, I gotta handle this problem. And if I don't handle this problem, I gotta get default aggressive and handle that problem and neutralize the threat before other innocent people or other officers are seriously injured and killed. And I think that's something that in the worst case scenario, your officer stepped up and performed absolutely as they should have, and that's a real testament to your leadership, Chief.